What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your Rock Shaker 15. It comes in 3 different colors of black, dark wood, and classic wood like this one here, but the setup for each is the exact same. So right here I have the classic wood version, but if you had this in black or white, it's going to be the same exact setup. Along with the sub itself, it also comes with a power cable to power the sub. So you're just gonna plug this into the back here and then plug the sub into your wall outlet. In front of the sub, we have this grill right here, but we can actually take this off for a different aesthetic. So to remove it, you're just gonna go to the grill, and if you push down on the mesh very lightly towards the top, you're gonna feel this circular groove here. So with that, you're just going to press up and just pull it out just like this. Then you'll hear it starting to pop on the corners, and then you're gonna do the same exact thing with the bottom corners, and there goes the grill. So like I said, this is just a different look that you can have with your sub in case you wanted to have it set up that way. But if you ever wanted to put the grill back onto the sub, all you have to do is line up these pins here on the top and the bottom of your grill and line them up to the holes here on the top and bottom of the sub. Make sure the Rockville logo is on the bottom, and then you're just gonna push the corners in just like this. And just like that, you have your grill back on your sub. Starting with the power switch here, this will turn on the sub. So if we lift it to the on position, turns the sub on. You'll also be able to tell that it's on by looking at the power LED on the top here. Below the LED, we have the volume knob to control the overall volume coming out of the sub. And below the volume knob, we have the frequency knob, which acts as the low pass filter for the sub. So we can use this to control the frequency range coming out. So for example, if I set this to 100 Hertz, you'll have the frequency range from 100 Hertz and below, and you won't be able to hear anything from 100 Hertz and above. In the middle here, we have the RCA line input and the RCA line output. You can use the RCA input to connect your sub to a device that has an RCA output or even a dedicated sub output like your DVD player, home theater receiver, etc. And then you can use the RCA output to expand your setup even further with additional powered speakers or subwoofers. Below that, we have the phase switch to flip the phase of the subwoofer in case it's out of sync with the rest of your setup. One way to tell if your sub is out of sync is if you feel like the air is being pushed into the sub instead of pushing out. So if you feel like this is the case, you might want to use the phase switch to sync it up to the rest of your setup. Below the phase switch, we have the auto switch, which will determine how the sub is powered. Below that, we have the auto switch, which will determine how our sub is powered. For example, if you flip the switch all the way to the right, then this will be set to the on mode where the sub will stay on at all times. But then if you switch it to the auto mode, this means it's going to stay on for about 15 minutes or as long as there is signal running to the sub. So this acts as an energy conserver, so whenever the sub is not receiving any signal or not playing any music, it's gonna turn off after 15 minutes. And if we flip this all the way to the off position, the sub will be powered off even when it's powered on. You can think of this as a standby mode, so if you don't want to use it temporarily but you still want to have the sub powered on, you can flip it to the off switch. We can use the high-level input terminals if we want to set up our sub using speaker wire from your home theater receiver or the passive speakers connected to your receiver. Then we can use the high-level output terminals to send the signal from your sub out to your passive speakers or to the rest of your setup. For this setup, all you have to do is take an RCA cable, plug one end into the audio RCA outputs on the back of your TV, then plug the other end into the RCA input on the back of your sub. From there, all you have to do is go into the sound settings of your TV and double check the output device. From here, we can set up some passive speakers so we're still hearing the high end coming through our setup. So for that, I just need a couple sets of speaker wire. I'm going to unscrew the terminals for the high-level outputs down here. Then I can take my sets of speaker wire and plug one end into the left and right high-level outputs here on the sub. Just make sure you keep track of which set is plugged into the left channel and which set is set up to the right channel. From here, you'll want to double check the sound settings of your TV and make sure that it's set to the RCA output. Alternatively, you can use the RCA outputs and plug that into the RCA inputs of your receiver that has your speakers set up already. From here, you can use the RCA outputs of the sub to connect to the input of your receiver so that you have your speakers set up as well. Rock Shaker is with our home theater setup, like this one I have right here with the Bluetooth and my 2 passive speakers. Now, most home theater systems should have an RCA output to connect external devices like a powered speaker or a powered subwoofer. Or some receivers like the Bluetooth here should have a dedicated RCA output for a subwoofer labeled sub out. So this sub out would be perfect to use with our Rock Shaker. So I'm going to take an RCA cable and plug one end into the sub out of my Bluetooth. Then I'm going to plug the other end into the RCA input on the back of my sub. And just like that, we have our Rock Shaker set up to our receiver. But in case you're using a receiver that doesn't have RCA outputs, there is another way we can set up our sub to our home theater system using the high-level inputs and the high-level outputs on the back of the sub. So first, we'll use the high-level inputs of the subwoofer to connect from our speakers set up to our receiver. For this, you're just gonna need 2 more sets of speaker wire. You're gonna take one end and plug it into the high-level inputs on the back of your sub. Then you're gonna take the other ends and plug them into the terminals on the back of your speakers, while there's also speaker wire coming out to connect to the receiver. If it helps at all, you can take the speaker wire that's connected to your receiver and the speaker wire that's connected to your sub, match the red wires together and tie up the ends like this, and do the exact same thing with the black wires. And once you have them joined together, you can plug them into the terminals on the back of your speakers. Another way we can do this is by taking the speaker wire coming from our receiver here and plugging them into the high-level inputs on the back of the sub. Then once you have your receiver set up to your subwoofer, you're then going to set up your passive speakers to the subwoofer using the high-level outputs. So we're going to do this by taking 2 more sets of speaker wire and plug one end into the back terminals of the speakers. Then you're going to plug the other ends into the high-level outputs on the back of your sub. So I'm going to play some music so we can hear how the sub sounds. Now we also have the option to set up our Rock Shaker 15 to our interface as long as it has available 1/4-inch inputs like we have right here. So for this setup, we're gonna need an RCA cable to dual 1/4-inch cable like this one here. We're gonna take the 1/4-inch ends and plug them into the 1/4-inch outputs on the back of our interface. Then we're gonna plug the other ends into the RCA inputs on the back of the sub. From here, we'll recommend going into the sound settings of your computer and double checking that the input and output device is set to your interface on your computer as well as on your DAW. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your Rock Shaker 15. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.